As you can hear, the fans are jubilant after Forest won 1-0 on the night to beat Porto, and we're through to the Europa League semi-finals. I'm here with Baz from our podcast. Baz, how does that feel?
It was horrible at times, but we made it through. That's the important thing.
I was tense, I was anxious, I felt sick. The second half was much more of a slog than we'd have liked, wasn't it?
Yeah, and so I don't know what the injury situation is, but that's particularly worrying as well with Burnley. But we're through. I guess it's Villa. I haven't looked at the final scores yet, but can't complain at that. Semi-finals. Yeah,
and 30 years since we watched Forest crash out of the UEFA Cup to the best team in Europe that year. It's we're through to the semi-finals. We've got one step further. Come on, you Reds.
Phew. Well, as you can hear, the dust has started to settle a little bit. It is now the morning after the night before, and I'm still a bit hoarse, but I am joined by Tom Newton to discuss a match in which Forest ultimately went through to the semi-finals of the Europa League after a night in which we had to sweat a bit. We were tense, we were anxious. Ultimately, Porto came out of the traps as quickly as they could do, but they sabotaged themselves with an early red card for Jan Bednarek. Forest scored not long afterwards, but really we had to slog it out in the second half with Porto hitting the bar a couple of times. Igor Jesus forced their keeper into a couple of saves, hit the bar late on. But in the end, Tom Newton, it's the result that counts, even if we had injuries and bruises along the way.
Yeah, we do suffer, don't we? I'm buzzing that we got to the semi-final. It wasn't brilliant, was it? You were, after they went down to 10 men, you were expecting us to obviously put a foot on the gas and get a few goals, and we got into some decent positions, but we just look a bit toothless in attack, don't we? At times we make the wrong decision, and but hey, I'm thankful that we're in the semi-finals of the Europa League, and we haven't done that since what, 84, when we got done by a bent ref against Anderlecht. So happy days for us.
Yeah, and of course the toughest test so far still awaits, because Aston Villa, I think, are deservedly favourites for the competition, and they are almost certainly the strongest team left in the competition. So we'll come on to that when the time is right. So there were 29,500 people at the City Ground. It was a night which was bookended by the very, very sad and serious news that Elliott Anderson had lost his mother. We were told yesterday that he would be likely to be missing due to personal issues, and then the club made the announcement about an hour or two before kickoff. And as you will undoubtedly have seen by the time you're listening to or watching this match report, that Forest did their best to kind of keep Elliott in their thoughts with the celebration after the goal and at the end of the match. Tom, just before we go any further, obviously just tragic news for a young man.
Yeah, it is. It's heartbreaking for Elliott Anderson and family and friends of his, but yeah, I think the players did him proud last night with a tribute, and the fans obviously singing Geordie Maradona. So yeah, it's really tragic. And at the end of the day, if he needs a bit of time away from playing, so be it. Because things there's some things are much more important than football, aren't they? So we all wish Elliott and family and friends best wishes. And it's really tragic because what's happened to him over the last couple of days.
Yeah, obviously, absolutely second that. Team news. So Forest did make changes as you would expect. So we had Ortega in goal. We had a back four of Ola Aina at right back and Nico Williams at left back. And we had Jair Cunha partnered by Murillo at the centre back positions. We had Sangare and Dominguez holding the midfield, Hutchinson on the right, and Doy on the left, and Gibbs-White in the number 10 position, supporting Chris Wood. But it was very nearly first blood to Porto in the first minute, wasn't it? Now, Tom, you and I are both sitting in the Bridgeford end. So this was way down the other end. But I think it was a, oh, bloody hell moment, wasn't it? Very early on.
Yeah, same thing happened last week, didn't it? I think it was the same. Is it Moffey?
Mm.
where he could have scored after like 40 odd seconds last week and the same last night. You knew they were going to come out the traps like they did last week. Thankfully, Ortega saves that, etc. But yeah, same as deja vu as last week. They went through, and you think, oh, here we go. And thankfully, Ortega is a very capable goalkeeper, isn't he? Which he's shown in this Europa League campaign since January when he signed for us.
Yeah, very much so, very much so. And I think with I've not seen the replay. I've just seen a still image. It looks like a very, very good save by Ortega in terms of he's not necessarily the most physically imposing for a goalkeeper, but he really kind of made himself big for that one. And just coming back to what you said about last week, yes, Porto really tried to get at us really, really early on last week, and they tried to do the same this time round. And just like last week, Moffy showed he would be a very good Forest centre forward because he's a bit toothless in front of goal. So
Yeah.
grateful for that. And then, of course, the minutes that kind of changed the match came after 5 minutes when on the halfway line, Chris Wood tried to receive the ball and turn with it. As he was receiving the ball, Jan Bednarek came through him with a tackle. Now, this was an interesting one because I was looking at it going, that's got to be a yellow card. And the ref disagreed. And because the ref disagreed, while Wood was on the deck getting treatment, we looked at the screen and saw they had the VAR checking for a red card icon. And I thought, well, it looked like a yellow in real time. And of course, the ref had kind of said, oh, I'm not giving anything. And then eventually the ref makes the gesture and he goes over to the monitor and then he pulls Bednarek to one side and he issues him with the red card. Now Bednarek was furious, but Mrs. Ferraro sent me a still image of the tackle, and then of course I've seen a replay since. I don't think you can really argue with it. I mean, if nothing else, if I'm the Porto gaffer, I'm absolutely livid that an experienced centre back like Bednarek, who's has having played in the Premier League, that's a really important tool in your armory, isn't it? And he's made a challenge like that because he's given the referee and the VAR a chance to say, right, you've done a reckless challenge there, and you need to go.
Yeah, and when it happened in real time, I thought I just thought because of where the ball went, because he didn't get any contact on the ball, I thought he's left one in on there, on one of those like an early marker
Yeah.
on your tack, and I thought he's tried to leave one on him there, and when I've seen it again, I thought he's gone in there and left one on it, and yeah, thankfully, soon as you knew Danny Mackley going over, because he's usually in the Champions League, isn't he? And he's a very, very experienced. As soon as he went over, you knew it was curtains for Bednarek, and he had the audacity to say, I didn't touch him, and like it's one of those, and it's like it's high, it's reckless, and some around me says, "Oh, he's got there." I thought, no. Even watching it live, I thought he's left one on him on there. You know when you watch, I'm not saying I'm kind of like um, I know it's all regarding football, but you know where if you've played the game, you know what defenders done it. And I thought he's left one. And Wood's not one of those players who stays down. He's
Mm.
experienced. He's been knocked about a bit, hasn't he, over his career? But when he stayed down, you knew it was a bad one, and then they can have no qualms over that red card. It is just a really bad challenge by Bednarek.
Yeah, and with the replay as well, it showed, and I know everything looks worse in slow motion, it really does, but you can see the force of the challenge because you can see the way that Wood's leg kind of changes direction when the impact
Yeah.
of Bednarek's foot comes in, and then the screenshot that Mrs. Ferraro sent me, you can see the stud marks on Wood's knee. So obviously very worrying he was down, and let's just cut to sort of 10 minutes later, Woody couldn't continue. And that's obviously a very, very big worry for a player who's just come back from a knee injury to get another blow on his knee.
Yeah.
Vitor Pereira sounded not too not too worried about it, but yeah, I mean, obviously he's only just come back, and not just for tonight, but for the rest of the season. That's a worry.
It is, but BBC alluded to the fact that the challenge from Bednarek was on his other knee. So
Okay.
thankfully, it's not the knee what he's had surgery on. But I think with Wood. I think he's just don't want to take any chances, and with them down to 10 men, he doesn't have to run himself into the ground or anything like that, or be selfish. He's
Yeah.
probably thinking, right, there's people on the bench who can replace me, Luca, Igor Jesus. Let me get me right for Sunday, because obviously Sunday is a massive game. So I think he did the right thing then. Thankfully, he didn't go down the tunnel. He didn't get
Mm.
stretched off or anything like that. I think they just iced it. So yeah, thankfully,
Yeah.
it might not be as bad as first feared.
Yeah, and when he went down the second time, he went down and he sort of looked up and he said to Morgan who'd come over, and Morgan immediately made the gesture for make the sub. So that's a sign that he was just like, yeah, there's no point. I think there's sometimes that players want to soldier on. He's experienced. He knows that there's some big matches coming up. So let's hope that it is just that precaution. In the meantime, Forest had taken the lead. And this is exactly what you want to do when you are up against 10 men, because they made the ball do a lot of the work and they opened up space. What Porto didn't do is they didn't bring on Jakub Kyrgios straight away. They waited until the second half before they did that, which meant that Pablo Rosario dropped into the centre back position, and it was one of those. It's the kind of thing we always fear that Forest will do in their defensive positions, where they kind of backed off slightly, created that extra couple of yards of space. So Morgan ran through with the ball at his feet. He had the shot. Diogo Costa went the way it was going to go, but when it deflected off the heel of Rosario, then it sent it into the back of the net, and we were treated to something that I only saw once as a Forest supporter in the 90s, which was a goal by Rosario.
I was just going to say about to say that you just took the words out of my mouth when I says, yeah, it's the first time at the City Ground that I was sorry who's had a positive impact. And thankfully, yeah, as soon as Morgan had that shot and it hit Diego Costa, the goalkeeper, knew it was he went one way, the ball went the other. So yeah, and it was a matter of like, we've got the goal now, let's kick on, and which we'll talk about in a minute. Yeah, just frustrating, but it was nice to so quickly after the red card, Morgan, especially in the first half, Morgan was on a one-man mission to get us into the semi-final. He was everywhere, and thankfully, yeah, the ball goes in the back of the net. We're in raptures, aren't we? And singing, "We're all going to Istanbul." So, but yeah, I think in that first 10 minutes after their chances, it was nice to obviously score very quickly.
Yeah, definitely. And yeah, I was saying to Baz, who obviously I sat with, and saying it's something whereby we it's really important we got that goal pretty soon after the red card, because otherwise there's a chance that the game settles down into kind of them playing with a low block and so on.
Yeah, well, it was interesting because Thiago Silva's been there, done that, everything in football. And as soon as Bednarek went off, he got everybody around and says, "Look, let's condense the middle of the pitch." And
You could see him making that gesture, couldn't you?
yes, yeah, you could. And I thought, well, that's like a manager in waiting on the field in terms of he's coming to the end of his career, so you're going to see him in a coaching capacity.
Wait, he's still going to be playing when he's 45.
Later. Yeah, he's still a Rolls Royce of a defender. I mean, when he played for Chelsea a few years ago, there was him and Martinez, who plays for Man U, and you just at that time you thought they're proper defenders, they are. And yeah, he still had a good game last night. What is he now? 38, 39?
He's
I
41.
think he's similar age to me. So yeah, he's still a good player. Is he 41?
He's
Oh,
41.
I thought he was
Yeah.
a bit
And
younger than that,
yeah,
but
he's
yeah, but
absolute
fair play
class.
to him.
I do think that he's a contender for one of the best centre backs of all time. I really do. Anyway, now we need to kind of almost zip through the way that the first half went, because it was something that we've seen many, many times at the City Ground this season, which is Forest having the initiative but not taking the initiative, and in particular the actions of our wingers creating sort of opportunities but not quite. And we saw last week in the Premier League that when Chris Wood is playing, it really makes a difference, because the idea of the spaces he takes up, his positioning and so on, which opens up opportunities for wingers and for number 10s and so on to get into places. when Igor Jesus does that, he doesn't have that quite same instinct. And in particular, I found it really frustrating, as is so much of the season, that the wingers just take the initiative, take your man on. Dan and Doy was really good at taking the man on and then running into him.
Yeah.
Amari Hutchinson did that thing that he always does, which is he gets the opportunity and then he wants his because his instinct is to cut back onto his left foot, even if he ends up crossing with his right. That actually, by the time the ball does get in, if it does, the chance has gone. So frustrating to watch.
Yeah, and as like yourself, you obviously grew up in the 80s, and the art of a wing is gone now, isn't it? You know, like we was brought up on like Ryan Giggs and Steve McManaman and Mark Overmars, players like that who would like just attack the man, get the ball, or get to put a decent cross in. As like you said, Ndoye on one side, he goes past his man, runs into him. My Hutchinson think well, there's a pitch there to actually run into. Now play inside, and I don't know if it's a confidence thing, but take your man on. It's so frustrating. And it's not just last night or last week. It's been all season, and it's so frustrating. And talk about Igor Jesus. He isn't a natural goal scorer, is he? You know, like there was an occasion in the second half where the ball comes to him, and you know, like a striker who's got that natural instinct will have a picture in his head before that ball comes to him.
Yeah.
The ball comes to him, I know what I'm going to do with it, and he hasn't got it. I mean, for all the good he does in terms of his hold-up play, his effort and things like that, yeah, he has scored goals in the Europa League, but it's against less opposition. Because when he gets into the Premier League, what's he scored? Two? Is it 2 or 3 now? And it's just a poor. What did we pay for him? About
It's 10 million.
yeah, in Premier League terms, it's not a lot of money, is it?
Yeah.
He's not like a 40-50 million pound, but still, that's been our problem this season. We're toothless in attack. We don't know what to do with it. We make the wrong decisions time and time again, and yeah, it's so frustrating. Like I said earlier, you want to first put the game to bed on why it was 1-0 and all right, they've got 10 men. They've still got hope. It only takes one, which was one occasion which they hit the bar later on, didn't they? But it's so frustrating with our wingers, and you think go and like make a name for yourself. Go and stamp your name on this team, and this is why if you look at the team over the last few months, we keep having that different wingers week in week out because you can't hang your hat on any of them. Even Hudson-Odoi, I know he come on last night and went off injured, but even him at the moment, he's not pulling up any trees, and Doy's not pulling up any trees back with Hutchinson and Doy. It's just so frustrating compared to last season where we had Alanga and Hudson and Doy, and they were like obviously pulling up trees, weren't they?
Yeah, and when he was playing for the under 21s, I noticed that Lee Carsley had played Hutchinson on the left-hand side, and I just think I, I get the idea about playing inverted wingers. I really do, because I think there's times that I quite like it when I see managers who will swap the wingers over at various points just to give their fullbacks something different to think about. And I think if Hudson-Odoi and Hutchinson are the first choice wingers, I'd just say just swap them around once in a while and put them on their
Yeah.
correct foot. And we've seen Hudson-Odoi play on the right hand side a few times and do it quite well because he's on his instinctive foot. And of course, classically, he scored that goal against Manchester City a season a bit ago, and where he came in from the right hand side and did that. So I don't see why we don't do that more often because I think that enables the players to realize more of their own kind of instinct and their own potential.
Yeah, I think Baz mentioned it on the last match report, didn't he? Where every right wing, I think they're trying to make him into the next Iron Robin, where he cuts in on his left foot, and not many can do it. Iron Robin was like a freak of a talent, wasn't he? When he was at Bayern, Chelsea,
He was
Real
a rich
Madrid, where he
man's
used to
Joe
cut in,
Lolly. That's what he
brilliant at it.
was.
And I haven't seen a player like that since. And then in football in general, like the managers all the way down to the lower leagues trying to play like Pep Guardiola. Why don't they like be a bit different, mix it up a bit, let the opposition think of what they're going to do, rather than being so predictable? And obviously, you're just playing into teams' hands. It's like saying with that Ndoye gets the ball, he's got all that pitch to run into, and then it's just it's really frustrating. And this is probably the reason why we're like in the low reaches of the Premier League, because of obviously we're not consistent enough, and
Yeah.
we keep doing the same thing over and over and over again,
And especially
expecting the
with
same results, and it sometimes doesn't happen.
especially with Ndoye and Hutchinson as well. you could see that there's a player in there who wants to take the man on, but then they just don't quite have the courage of their
Same
convictions
with
in the
backward as well.
yeah, yeah. So
Yeah,
things worth
so
pointing out.
frustrating.
Forest came close two or three times. So most notably, there's a shot by Dominguez which went just wide. There's a shot by Murillo which went just wide. There's also a free kick by Murillo which he put pretty much somewhere up where you are in the Upper Bridgeford. Um, and what was frustrating because I was in line with the post in the Lower Bridgeford, and I could see the gap, and it's just like, come on, Moo, hit it hard and low. There's a gap there, and of course, what he did is he tried to just hit it as hard as he could, and it ended up going miles wide and over. And it's like, come on, if you're going to take the free kick, you need to start doing better with these because I don't think he's ever got close to hitting the target with it when he's taken a direct free kick.
No, I think it's Roberto Carlos because he had that shot against, or that goal against France at Le Tournoi in '97. And so you're expecting so much, and then you receive so little. I think one of the cars swerved out the way of that going over Lady Bay. It was that far, it was that far wide, but no, it's just you expect so much from him, and we know he's got a shot on him. Hence the goal against Fenerbahce. But yeah, bloody hell, that was wild, wasn't it? Absolutely wild.
Just very, very quickly before we finish up on the first half, there was a foul down at the other end when Nico Williams was getting back to defend in the left back position. And I thought that that was one where they could have looked at it for a red card, except this time the referee pulled the yellow straight out of his pocket. And I'm just comparing and contrasting with the red card that was given. In real time, the ref didn't give a card for the Bednarek challenge, which is why VAR went to it. For this one, I think because the referee pulled out the yellow card, VAR said, "Yeah, it's been dealt with," which is kind of what VAR is supposed to be there for, and what the Premier League don't do very well.
Yeah, for the first challenge, Bednarek, if you look where the referee is, he's staring down the barrel of that, isn't he?
Hmm.
But yeah, I know what you're saying. But there was another chance what we had late in the first half. Igor Jesus's header is again. We mentioned about him earlier. He's got to do better with that. Really, it's just a poor execution of the header, isn't it? I know we're not great from set pieces, but he's in a similar position what the goal he scored against Spurs the other week.
Yeah.
But yeah, so poor. He didn't
I
even get
mean,
on target, did he?
I think I say that was right underneath where we were, and I think he saw that late. But I also think in that situation, 90% of the time, you go for the goal. On this 10%, I think he'd been better off putting it back into the 6 yard box
Yeah.
because even if it doesn't get to a Forest player, if it bounces and hits a Porto defender, there's a good chance it's going in. So anyway, at half time, it was 1-0 to Forest.
The 1865 match report.
Tom, Porto did what we've seen Forest do under Vitor Pereira in the Europa League, and they made a whole host of changes. They made four of them. And yes, they did bring on a proper centre back to play alongside Thiago Silva in Jakub Kivior. They took off their right back. They took off Borja Sainz and brought on Alan Varela. They brought on Victor Froholt, who's always looked dangerous in the matches that we've played against Porto so far. So a whole host of changes. And Forest brought on Callum Hudson-Odoi for Amari Hutchinson. I think it's fair to say that the more that the match went on, the more the nerves kind of ramped up. And what I'm just going to say at the outset of talking of this second half is that I think it put me back to that semi-final against Sheffield United 4 years ago, where it's like it's so close and yet we're being made to work so hard for it.
Yeah, that we've said it many times on this podcast and other podcasts have mentioned it is the easy way, the hard way, and the forest way, and that really happened last night, didn't it? It's just like Porto come out second half and they had nothing to lose because they were down to 10 men. They were behind in the tie and they thought, sod it, let's go for it. And I think their manager, I can't remember who it is now, but he thinks like, well, if we're going to go out, let's go out and give it a bloody good go, and that's what they did. And
Yeah,
like I
Farioli.
said, and like I said earlier, why it was at 1-0. Porto's always had a chance,
Yeah.
always had a chance to obviously put pressure on us, and we'll talk about it in a minute. That but yeah, the second half it was kind of like I thought we was like comfortable, but there was like just chinks in the armor, wasn't there? That they hit the bar a couple of times, and it just like you just needed that second goal, and it never come, did it? And we got, like I says, in the first half, we got into some really good positions, but our delivery, our set pieces, I mean, backward, a corner didn't he late on, and that went straight to our Porto player, really flat, poor corner.
Mm.
So yeah, he just wanted to get that second goal and just kill the tie, and we don't seem to do it the easy way, do we?
Absolutely not. No. And I also think that it's worth mentioning that, you know, when Forest did get half chances, that it felt very much like we've seen for much of the season, whereby, and in some ways they were trying to do the right thing. You've got the extra man, so rather than just rushing into kind of playing it and losing it, and there were times that I got very frustrated because we did that and just lost the ball. But they also played it around, and then of course then Porto regroup, and it means that when a shot did come in, it tended to be an effort from distance. So we saw long range efforts from Dominguez. We saw I think Hudson Odoi. We saw Gibbs-White, and they weren't really troubling Diogo Costa in the goal for the most part. And so there's an argument to say, well, Forest were trying to do the right thing by letting the ball do the work, but there's also an argument saying, well, Porto were doing a really good job of, okay, we've got a man less, we need to kind of preserve our energy. And I also want to point out that in the second half, the Porto fans really, they brought the noise, they turned the volume up, and their players responded.
Yeah, but like we said earlier, they just condensed the middle of the pitch. So it was just like rinse and repeat, wasn't it? Sideways, try to get down the wings. It come back inside, then it back into Gibbs-White. Then he went up, and I think yeah, Porto were just happy for us to play in front of them. We never really turned their defenders facing their own goal, did we? And Diego Costa didn't have a shot to save, I don't think. Oh no, he had a
He
couple of
did.
sorry,
He
yeah,
had a
sorry,
couple,
did that,
yeah.
yeah. But it was like it was routine. You haven't really had to make him work. For goalkeepers like got caps for Portugal, you're expecting him to make those saves. And then there was that obviously the Igor Jesus chance, which you just want him just like right, the ball's coming into me. I know exactly what, and he just like he didn't know what to do with it, and obviously he got caught in two minds. But yeah, like I said, you just want Forest just to kill the time. Like I said, White was at 1-0. Porto always had the chance.
And so, right at the start of the second half, when they turned up the volume, Kivior had an effort which Ortega looked way more relaxed than I felt because the ball deflected and it went wide, and Ortega was stood there watching it, and I was going, that might be going in, but it actually went. You know, he's the goalkeeper for a reason. He knew it was going wide. There were also further efforts, and the most notable ones are William Gomez. Ball comes across from the left hand side of the box, and somehow Gomez he gets to it. He gets it on his left foot, which is his good foot. So he kind of changes his body shape to address the ball. And then because of doing that, it meant he didn't manage to get over the ball. The ball hits the underside of the bar and bounces out. And that was frankly terrifying, I would
Yeah,
say.
yeah. It's like as soon as he hit it, it was past Ortega. Ortega's like looked at it and like think, well, where's it gone, kind of thing. And if it was a couple of inches below, stating the obvious, it's a goal, isn't it? And it obviously ties level. But but yeah, it's just like he always had that. You just think they were going to create something with the players on the pitch, like William Gomez. I was impressed with him last week because he scored the goal, didn't he? And then Froholt, which he played in the group game, didn't he? Then he played like he come on last week and he come on last night, and I'm like thinking, why isn't he playing? Because he looks a very busy player, he looks a very capable player. So he causes problems. Varela causes problems because obviously he hit the ball with that shot, and but yeah,
Let's
it's just
talk
like
about that Varela shot. So that came in the 84th minute. So just when you're thinking Forest are going to have a hope of closing this out, Varela takes a shot, and again from behind the Bridgeford end goal, I'm going, phew, that's going over. And then it just dipped and it hit the
Yeah,
bar. And I was going, oh, bloody hell.
yeah,
And
yeah.
and
It's
bearing
what.
in mind that all the way through, so this is the 84th minute, and Forest had been having shots, which long range efforts, I said, Dominguez, Gibbs-White, Hudson-Odoi, Nico Williams, and none of them were causing any kind of threat. And then Gomez hits the bar early, midway through the second half. Varela hits it late on in the second half, and you're going, we're really riding our luck here, lads.
Yeah, Varela's one of those players. If you play career mode on FIFA or EAFC or whatever it's called now, he's the one who's usually pops up as like a player with potential. And in the games what I've seen him against us, it's obviously the 3 games this season, I've been very impressed with him. And yeah, my heart sunk a little because when he took the shot on and it was obviously in the air, I thought this is on target. This is then obviously then it dips, doesn't it? And yeah, thankfully it's hit the bar, but.
And I
Oh
think,
no.
in fairness, I think that if you could class the William Gomez shot as a bad miss because he was close and, I say, he should really have got over it, then Varela will be turning away. He'll have been replaying that over and over last night, going, how did that not go in?
Yeah, like I says, a couple of inches below the bar, and that's in, isn't it? And yeah, and we was living a bit of a charm life because like I says, they just always had that in them that they were going to create a couple of problems for us, and they did.
Mm.
But yeah, then obviously late on, Igor Jesus has that shot which gets deflected, and if you watch the replay, Diego Costa, the keeper for Porto, he gives up on it. You can see on his face, is like, look down and thought that's in him. And thankfully for him, hits the bar and goes out for a corner. But yeah, thankfully we closed it out. We're in the semi-final. Again, it's
Yeah,
weird,
and
isn't it? A
and worth
semi-final of a European competition, and it's against Aston Villa, which is like what 45 minutes down the road in Birmingham. It's just weird, but yeah, we've got to play. I don't want to sound like ungrateful and things like that, but we've got to play a hell of a lot better than we did last night against Villa over 2 legs if we want to get to the final in Istanbul on May the 20th.
The 1865 match report.
Tom, we talked about most of the things to do with the match. We didn't bother mentioning that Diego Costa went up for a corner in stoppage time to try and get all 10 of their men in the box, and Forest could have broken. What I will mention is that there were times during stoppage time that Forest did do the right things when they were breaking, which was especially towards the end. It's like, you know what? Safe thing to do, get it down towards the corner of the pitch and try and see this out, because I think they realised that A, they were knackered, and B, is that frankly, Forest probably, if we were to try and put it in the box, all that would happen is we would lose it, it would get recycled, we'd be back under pressure again. Let's talk as well about the fact that Forest did have problems, and we saw. I've mentioned, of course, that Wood went off in the first half. We've mentioned that Hutchinson was replaced by Hudson-Odoi at half time, and Doi went off and was replaced by Milenkovic on 65 minutes. And that saw Forest go to what was sort of a back three with Jair Cunha. And by the way, I just want to mention Jair Cunha, I thought was very, very composed. He wasn't. I don't think he was expected to play the full 90 minutes, but he did. And he was very, very composed, very calm. And I thought he had a really good match.
Yeah, I put it on Twitter last night. He had a superb game, very composed, and is he only about 20 years old?
Yeah.
And yeah, so composed, really professional display. He's going to go far in the game. He's like Murillo, but without the razzmatazz and all and the flamboyancy. He just like plays it simple. He can play a bit. He can pick a pass out. He's very calm under pressure, and yeah, I don't want to like do Murato a disservice, but I'm more confident having Jai Cunha in the side because he seems just to do the right things and doesn't try to think, well, Murillo's not there or whatever. Let's try and do Murillo type things like Murato does. He just like play it. And yeah, if Murillo does go in the summer and he's the centre back with Milenkovic, I'll feel more confident
Yeah.
than having like Murato.
Agreed. And speaking of the hapless giant Brazilian, he did have to come on because Murillo, and Hudson-Odoi obviously come on at half time. They were both substituted on 72 minutes, and there's a little bit of confusion because I think basically we're making our last two substitutions of the night due to injury. So Morato does come on from Murillo, plays left-sided centre back, and Hudson-Odoi is replaced by Dylan Bakwa. And it was, yeah, I mean, hopefully those are mostly precautionary, but Pereira did say afterwards that Hudson-Odoi, it looks like it's a muscle injury, so it'd be a surprise if he is available on Sunday. Um, I think we need to kind of, this brings us back to the thing of like balancing things out. So I say, in the match, Forest started with a back four. They went to a back three-ish, but a lot of the time it's like Cunha was playing at right back and Williams still playing at left back with Ola Aina playing. He seemed to be deliberately stationed a lot more further forward on that right-hand side. So it's almost like a back four at times. And I mean, ultimately, I guess shape is not important as long as it gets the job done. But thinking ahead to not only Sunday, but the Europa League semi-final and of course the various cup finals we have in the Premier League. Do you think we've paid a heavy price?
Um, no, no, not really. No, I just think Murillo, he always goes off, doesn't he? Or needs treatment during the game, and then next minute he's back for the next game. So I'm not too concerned about that one. Hudson-Odoi, he has played a lot of football recently, and it was. I always had a funny feeling it was going to be a case that he's going to like pull up or something like that, which he did last night, kind of thing. So, but it gives one of the other wingers a chance to shine now, doesn't it? Whoever that might be, most likely it's going to be Ndoye because out of all of them, he seems to be the trusted one on the left hand side.
Yeah,
Out of like,
and I also think that I prefer Ndoye on the left than I do on the right. I think that on the right hand side, even though he's predominantly a right-footed player, I think he looks more comfortable playing down the left hand side in terms of when he tries to take players on. What I want to see is, and we saw against Ferencvaros, okay, not an amazing standard of opponent, but we saw that he can take players on, and we also saw against Fulham that playing on the left he can be effective if we get the right ball into him. So I think that he's obviously had a tough season trying to settle in. I do think that there's something there that he could be a player. It's just that obviously this has been such a turbulent season. So I agree with you. I think he's probably next man up on that left wing.
Yeah, exactly. But all of wingers, they've had like four managers, haven't they? And they're coming to all of them are coming to a new club, apart from obviously Hudson-Odoi, which was there before. But yeah, it's just the case of like you just want. I think Vitor's trying to get a bit of confidence in like the likes of Bakwa and Doi, but whether they look all right in training, but they can't replicate it in on a match day, who knows? But yeah, if we want to get to Istanbul, we've got to play a lot better than we did last night, because we all know about Villa. But going to the game on Sunday, that has to be no ifs or buts now. That has to be a must win because
Yeah.
Spurs play Saturday evening, don't they, against Brighton? So obviously we'll know their result before we play. So, but yeah, there's no ifs. No, it can't be a point. Oh yeah, but we did it at play. No, by hook or crook, it has to be 3 points on Sunday without a shadow of a doubt. Because if we don't get the 3 points, because De Zerbi's gone in, I mean, I honestly do think Spurs will go down because of obviously it's an absolute basket case. But yeah, if we don't, it just gives them a bit of hope. But if we can pull away from Spurs and then try and get like a point against Sunderland next Friday night, it just puts us in a really good position. But yeah, like I said, Burnley, we all know Burnley are basically their championship club next year without having the R next to the name already. So we've got to beat them on Sunday.
Yeah, and it doesn't matter how ugly it is. Like
Exactly.
if it's like last night and it's a scrappy 1-0, then
I'm
that's
happy.
the points are what's important.
Definitely.
Just before we finish up, worth pointing out, Morgan Gibbs-White was interviewed on the pitch immediately after the final whistle, and he was saying about it is an incredible win, one of the best nights I've had at the City Ground. Thanks to fans. And we said early on we'd take this competition full on. We got the win, so now it's back to the league. But he also, notably, he was getting a little bit choked up when he was talking about Elliott Anderson and the loss of Mrs. Anderson. A really emotional night. It's a big shame. He's an incredible kid. No one deserves this, but we're all with him. I don't think those were crocodile tears. I think that all of those players, you got a bunch of young men out there who are probably imagining how awful it must be to lose your mother.
Yeah, it just puts things in perspective, doesn't it? It really does. It's like any age, you losing which your mum's your best friend. You're like, even at like, she will pick you up when you're as a kid if you like fall over and everything, but you still need her advice at like the age what I am, 38 kind of thing. And like Elliot's what, he's probably about what? He's about 20, 21, 22 now.
22, 23, yeah.
Yeah,
And we've heard stories about how his mum she was the one who used to give him lifts everywhere, turn up to all his matches, all the way from like boys level all the way through to him becoming an England footballer. So it's a loss that I think the other players will have met her, and it's a loss that will be very, very keenly felt.
Yeah, it comes across as like very family oriented, a very close knit family, and obviously the family values of, without knowing him, you can know that he's been brought up really well as a lad and everything. And yeah, it's just really sad news for Elliott Anderson, his friends and family. So we're all thinking of you, Elliott, and like I says, if you've got to have a long amount of time away from the first team.
Take the time you need. Take the time you need.
Exactly.
So we'll leave it there on that slightly somber note. We will be back, obviously, after the Burnley match. Baz and I will be reporting from that one. And as you said, Tom, it's a must-win. So I'm going to say thank you very much to you. Thank you for joining us on the podcast. And come on, you Reds. Come on, you European Reds.
You've been listening to 1865, the Nottingham Forest podcast. If you like what you hear, please subscribe and leave us a review. It helps other listeners find our content.